Hi everyone, happy Friday. It's me, Whimsy. I have a little bit of makeup on. I was gonna go to synagogue because they had a community dinner tonight, and I just, you're trying to get out there, trying to meet people. But it didn't happen tonight. So instead I decided to shoot a video for everybody about a remote that I did a couple of nights ago, and we've talked about it, and I just want to go and talk about it a little bit more. And in addition to talking about this remote, I just want to say that I want people to listen to the story I'm going to tell you and consider the possibility that it is only a story, okay? Whimsy's going to tell everybody a story about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, but I want people, when I tell this story, I don't want people to think that there isn't room for error, or it isn't just Whimsy's imagination, or okay. You guys know how this works, the rabbit hole. That rabbit hole that we enter into when we go into the deep meditative state and we try to put ourselves in the shoes of another human being, and then we begin to daydream or imagine who or what we would do in a given situation. When we enter that rabbit hole, all kinds of things start to happen. We start to see things and wonder, am I creating this, or am I actually seeing something that actually happened? So I want to talk a little bit about some feelings and impressions I got about the Epstein suicide. I'll link to this video what I had said when I was asked to remote soon after Epstein was captured. And in that remote, when I did the heart-centered meditation for Epstein, and I tried to put myself in his shoes, I was told by a group of people that I had to commit suicide. And we did do a remote last night where we tried to get just generic information from what would be floating around if I imagined a conversation with Mossad, etc. And, obviously not try and see anything that would put anybody at risk, if there's any reality to this, which I think there is. And then Mossad's, the energy we got back from Mossad had to do with whether or not a comrade, somebody working for them, they would never kill, but that if they felt that a mission was going to be compromised, theoretically such a person could take their own life. And that they would also help, aid, and abet that person in taking their own life if necessary. They wouldn't kill him, but they could create an environment where that person could take their own life. That was within the morals and ethics of Mossad, based on that remote. So today the report came out that Jeffrey Epstein, it was confirmed, died of a suicide. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about that, and a lot of people that think that little Clinton ninjas went down the drain pipe and came up and killed him or something like that. And the truth of the matter is that I think usually the most obvious explanation, Occam's razor, right? Usually we don't have to go traveling for some complicated answer. We can usually go with the most obvious answer. And so I think the obvious answer is that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. He was pressured to commit suicide, and I believe that because the remote I did was a pure remote. It was done before he killed himself, and so we were able to get his thought processes 3 weeks prior to his suicide. Prior to his suicide attempt, maybe a week before his suicide attempt. So I believe he attempted suicide. I believe the first time he attempted suicide, he lied and said that he was not attempting suicide. And I think the reason why is because if he had told the truth, yeah, I was attempting suicide, he would have been put on suicide watch. And so he attempted suicide. He failed. He lied so that he would not be put on suicide watch, which would have delayed his attempts at suicide. Not only would have delayed his attempts at suicide, they would have theoretically given him medications that would have taken away his desire to commit suicide. And that's also dangerous if, theoretically, you're someone who's supposed to be committing suicide. You see how this works? So let's say theoretically, you are told you have to commit suicide. And the people that are telling you you have to commit suicide instruct you on the proper way to commit suicide. And let's say theoretically the proper way to commit suicide is that you take a sheet, you wrap it around your neck, you tie it. I didn't want to give too much detail because I don't want people to get the idea, but I'll go ahead and describe it here. I saw him tying it up, but they're saying he tied it to the actual bunk bed itself. I just saw him tying it. Then you sit at the bunk bed, and then you say whatever prayers you're going to say. If you're Jewish, you would say like the Shema, you make peace with your God, and then I saw him go 1, 2, 3, and then with all of his might, he threw himself forward, and then when he threw himself forward, it knocked the neck back, pulled the hyoid bone up, and then when he flung, the force of when he flung forward, it broke his neck and then pulled him like this. His entire body twisted and came forward and landed like that. So when they found him, he was down like this, and his neck had been twisted and broken, and the hyoid bone had been broken. That was the vision that I saw in my imagination. So that's what I think happened, you know. And I think that there are a couple of things that are going out into the media that are not true. The tape was not destroyed. They have the full tape, and that was how they found out that the people were sleeping. Now the question is, were they given something that put them conveniently to sleep for a couple of hours so that you could go do what you need to do? If it's something with a half-life of, you know, a short half-life, would you be able to detect it? If it never enters their mind to do that, or to do this type of drug test, no, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to detect it. There was also, if you don't do it soon enough and it has a short half-life, you would, not be able to detect it. So the other question was, well, there was a lot of screaming and yelling the day that he was killed. I saw that as when they woke up and they checked him and they saw him crumpled with the sheet, they started screaming, they became frantic, they tried to wake him up, they started calling for an ambulance, and that was the ruckus that people heard. They heard them attempting to revive him. And today his bodyguard, who's Russian, said that Epstein was helped to commit suicide, and you're smart people, he was saying to the press, and you should be able to figure out what happened. So I did card readings earlier today, and it seems to be suggestive that Mr. Epstein did a lot of bad things when he was alive, but finally having the courage to take his own life and not compromise what could be theoretically some type of work or mission that he was on, or mission he was probably working in a couple of areas for a couple of different intelligence agencies, and he was given up for whatever reason, and when the mission was compromised, I believe he was given an opportunity to take his own life. That's my working hypothesis. All right, thanks for watching, everybody, this quick remote from Miss Whimsy. I hope everybody has a happy and safe weekend. If you're still trying to get in for a tarot reading with me, you can look below. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.